Yes, welcome everyone. Another episode of Cannabis News. This is June 19th, 2018. It is Cannabis News with Joe Klare. That's me. Check us out over at marijuanatimes.org. You can click the video tab to get all the videos of this show. Also, check out all the great articles that are over there. Tons of great writers. marijuanatimes.org. You can find us on Vimeo as well, our major video platform, vimeo.com/marijuanatimes. Or search the Marijuana Times on Vimeo. You can also search the Marijuana Times on Apple Podcasts if you want the audio-only version of the show. That is how you can find it today. Talking about a lot of stuff, including Florida and their continuing saga when it comes to medical marijuana. This time, there's a few different arcs of drama when it comes to Florida medical marijuana. This one involves the whether or not medical marijuana can be smoked or not. Also, some big news out of Canada that broke really less than an hour before I started recording this show. And Surgeon General of the United States, the country's top doc, as they say, talks about opioids and marijuana. Has some interesting things to say about marijuana. Interesting, ignorant, whatever. It's one of the two. Maybe both. It can be both. But first, of course, Cannabis News is brought to you by Natureside and their line of organic, all-natural pesticides, nature-side.com. Check out what they have to offer. Be regulatory compliant. Grow safe and poison-free in the state that you're growing in. If you're a cannabis cultivator, well, you don't use harmful chemicals. Don't spray harmful chemicals on your grow. Pass regulations. Be regulatory compliant. You can do all of that with Natureside, nature-side.com. Site is spelled C-I-D-E. Go check them out. They are a proud sponsor of Cannabis News. This first story by Julia Granowitz over at marijuanatimes.org. Florida's ban on smokable marijuana will continue for now. The legal battle over smokable marijuana in Florida continues. An appellate court refused to lift a stay on the ruling recently made by a Leon County Circuit Judge Gevers last month. While Gevers' ruling was celebrated by patients and activists alike, the Department of Health have filed an appeal before the end of the day. John Morgan, who was the financial backer and the major force behind the passage of medical marijuana in Florida, he said, "I'm not surprised Rick Scott could end the appeal today. It will cost him his Senate bid. The maker of opioids are cheering him on." Earlier in June, Gevers had vacated the stay on smokable marijuana. Unfortunately, the appellate court did not side with Morgan and the patients he is representing, instead ordering that the stay would, quote, remain in effect pending the final disposition of the merits of this appeal. Basically, until the appeals court has made their final decision, smokable marijuana will be illegal for registered patients, even if their doctors recommend it in Florida. The drama, the saga continues in Florida. It's amazing on many levels how difficult it's been in Florida, how slow it's gone, the amount of lawsuits, the legislature inexplicably decides to ban smokable marijuana for medical marijuana patients, even though the amendment itself, Amendment 2, passed in 2016 by over 70% of Florida voters. It said that public smoking was banned, which of course implies that private smoking is fine, and smoking is still the way that many medical marijuana patients get their medicine for whatever reason. They don't want to use edibles or vaporizers or whatever. And what this notion that the state government is battling over whether or not a medical marijuana patient can smoke a joint as opposed to picking up a vaporizer. You're at home, you have marijuana, you're a medical marijuana patient, you're legal in Florida, you have on your coffee table in front of you, you have a vaporizer and you have a joint. Smoking one, you're fine. Smoking the other, you're a criminal. What is the point? Just get it done. Holy crap. It's medical marijuana. If a doctor and a person decide together that, hey, we're going to use marijuana for medical purposes, how is that possibly the business of anybody else? I know that's, cliched and obvious to many people, but it's not obvious to everybody, apparently. Apparently, many people are perfectly fine with the Department of Health battling the legislature, battling the governor, battling John Morgan, battling the patients that he represents. They're all battling each other over whether or not a medical marijuana patient can smoke a joint. Some of you may think, yeah, that's the domain of the government. Well, they should take care of that. That is inexplicable to me. That is nuts. I cannot relate in any way, shape, or form to that type of thinking. That, hey, the state legislature and the Department of Health should decide on whether or not that vaporizer and that joint are both legal or just one of them's legal. Especially after the voters already voted on it. Then the legislature's like, no, we're going to ban smoking marijuana anyway. Because that's what we can do. We're the state legislature. I'm the governor. I can do whatever I want. You smoke that joint in the privacy of your own home, you're a criminal. Shame on you for smoking a joint. That's where all this got started. That's where all this cannabis prohibition got started. Shame on you for smoking a joint. That's what the whole thing's been built on. And there's still some that are clinging to that edifice of prohibition. Shame on you for smoking a joint. How dare you? Crazy. So as negative as that news is how positive the news is in Canada. Did I say that right? Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yesterday, we talked about the House of Commons in Canada passing legalization. Well, the Senate has followed suit again. Today, Canada's legislature votes to legalize marijuana. Sales will begin in weeks. They're hoping within 8 to 12 weeks for cannabis sales, recreational cannabis sales, to begin in Canada. Canada. Recreational marijuana may soon be legal in Canada after both the House of Commons and the Senate approved the Cannabis Act, which, of course, Justin Trudeau is going to sign into law. I mean, that's the whole thing. He's the one that started the whole thing. That's one of the things he ran on in 2015 in Canada. Tuesday night, the Senate voted again, 52 to 29 to approve the bill. We just witnessed a historic vote for Canada, the end of 90 years of prohibition, said Tony Dean, one of the bill's sponsors, according to the CBC. Transformative social policy, I think, a brave move on the part of the government. Canada's Minister of Justice sponsored the cannabis bill. The government announced its push for legalization last spring with an official news release that said, quote, the current approach to marijuana does not work. The government said that making marijuana illegal has allowed criminals and organized crime to profit while failing to keep cannabis out of the hands of Canadian youth. The points were echoed by Liberal Prime Minister Justin Trudeau last fall when he welcomed the news that the bill was making its way to the Senate. Now, the proposed law would make it legal for anyone over the age of 18 to possess marijuana, provided it is less than 30 grams, which is just over an ounce. An ounce is 28 grams. It also allows Canadians to grow up to 4 marijuana plants in their home. There was some battle over whether or not the provinces could ban that. The Senate wanted the provinces to have the ability to ban home growing, but the House said no, and apparently the Senate relented in that. So people will be able to grow up to 4 plants in Canada, which legalization is, I'm sorry, legalization is garbage without home growing. I mean, dispensaries are great. You can go buy it. Yes, that's a necessary piece as well. If there's no dispensaries or retail stores, then that legalization is also garbage. But you have to have both. You have to be able to grow it. You have to be able to buy it. You have to be able to possess it. That is the tripod of legalization, if you will. Did I just coin a phrase here? Wow, the tripod of legalization. Is it like it's like this? The tripod is growing, sales, and possession. I don't know. I'll work on it. I just came up with it. Cut me some slack. I just came up with that. It may need some tweaking, but I will soon trademark it and put it on a T-shirt. Believe you me. Now, the bill's authors said legalization would have several benefits from protecting the health of young people by restricting access and to undercutting criminal enterprises and reducing the workload of the criminal justice system. It would also allow for quality control and public health awareness campaigns, which, as I always say, that's all great. Those are all great side effects of legalization, but the reason marijuana should be legal is because the people who sell it, buy it, and grow it are not and use it are not infringing on the rights of anyone else. That is why they are not criminals. But all other stuff's great. So congratulations, Canada, on legalization. I'll admit again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I was a bit cynical as things started to drag on, and then there was a point where the Senate and a lot of committees in the Senate offered up a lot of amendments. One was like the Indigenous Peoples Committee wanted to delay it a year. I said to them, there's something that's going to derail this and push into next year, but they got the job done. It's June 19th. They said by July 1st initially. That's not going to happen, obviously. Went a little longer, but not as long as many people, including myself, thought that it would go on. So if, there's sales by September, well, that's pretty impressive. Now, of course, the government has to approve, which of course they will. And then the provinces, they have to continue. Well, many provinces have already started. They're all some point along in their regulations. They have to finalize those because now, well, once it's legal, you start growing it and selling it and all that. So again, congratulations, Canada, on federal recreational legalization. This last story is from WashingtonExaminer.com. Examining opioids, Surgeon General wary of turning to marijuana as alternative to opioids. Now keep in mind that this man is the top doctor, supposedly, in the United States. He's government-wise. And he shows an ignorance here of marijuana that's weird. I mean, I'm sorry. It's for Joe Schmo in Wisconsin to not know anything about marijuana because it doesn't affect his life at all. That's fine. I don't know stuff about a lot of things that don't affect my life. But this guy, he's commenting on medical marijuana and the opioid crisis. This is his domain. This is his wheelhouse. This is his chicken shed. And that's not an expression. I just coined that phrase. 2 phrases coined in this show. It's incredible. This is free. Can you believe that? It's free. Surgeon General Jerome Adams said he was skeptical of medical marijuana as an alternative for pain. He was at the Washington Examiner's Examining Opioids event in Washington. He said the Food and Drug Administration needs to conduct further studies on the use of marijuana, which remains illegal under federal law. Yes, yes, yes. More studies, more research. Go do it. Go do it. We all agree. It's always the go-to for the politicians or the bureaucrats to say, well, I think we should have more research. Everybody agrees on that. More research, that's fine. Go do it. But until then, the research that's available shows us that marijuana can be effective medically for many, many things, including getting people off opioids, replacing opioids, and helping mitigate how opioids reversing the damage that opioids do to your brain. Sanjay Gupta just did another documentary, Weed 4. The 4th part of his docuseries on marijuana was all about this. Are you telling me Dr. Sanjay Gupta of CNN is some fringe hippie stoner who we shouldn't listen to? There are multiple studies that show this. And this is what Surgeon General Jerome Adams, top doctor in the country, had to say. We know that exposing a developing brain to marijuana can prime the brain to addiction and have potential negative consequences, including promoting cancer. Marijuana use promotes cancer. I can sit here for the next 2 hours and cite and read studies to you that show the opposite of that. Where he's getting this information, I don't know. We were told when we were kids, yeah, it causes cancer. But there's no evidence of that. There's no evidence of cancer in people who only smoke marijuana and not tobacco. And again, ignorance, fine. For the Surgeon General to be ignorant about this is horrific. He has power over this. Read something. Watch Weed 4. Don't read anything. Forget I said that. That takes a lot of time. You don't have that, Surgeon General, Mr. Surgeon General. Sir, go watch Sanjay Gupta's Weed 4 with commercials cut out, which I'm sure you can get a copy of. It's like 42, 44 minutes. It's a lunch hour. It's a lunch hour. More research? Yes. But to act like this hasn't been looked into at all, that's ridiculous. He did a whole hour on it. I'm sure the Surgeon General, if he talked to Sanjay Gupta, now he could talk to him, he could interview him. I'm sure Sanjay Gupta would give him all the stuff that they didn't use. All the stuff that got edited out. All of the interviews. Watch it all. This is your job. Put some effort into it. Jesus. Put some effort into it. He goes on to say, it would be incredibly disingenuous of me to say that you shouldn't smoke a cigarette, because the Surgeon General's warnings is on all the packs of cigarettes, but it's fine to go out and smoke a joint. Really? Would it? Would it? How to be disingenuous considering they are 2 completely different substances, and the fact that at every single level imaginable, marijuana has been proven to be safer than tobacco. Tobacco kills 500,000 people a year in this country. It's the leading cause of lung cancer and heart disease in this country. How to be disingenuous to say you shouldn't smoke a cigarette, but smoking a joint's fine. That seems like common sense to me. You have a choice between the 2, cigarette, joint, smoke the joint. Every single time. No hesitation. Smoke the joint. It is incredibly, I don't even know how to quantify levels of safeness. It is much safer for you. Much, much. He said, I think it's important we do look at the studies, but I also think it's important that we not jump onto something that may have more potential consequences down the road. Yeah, people will be smoking marijuana. They'll be off opioids, which can kill them and does kill them. They'll be using marijuana, which does not and cannot kill them. Those are the consequences. Those are the potential consequences down the road. Not dying. Go look into that, buddy, friend, pal, Mr. Surgeon General. Go look into that. God, this guy's not even a politician. He's not supposed to be pushing one. He's not supposed to be biased one way or the other. I'll admit, I'm biased. Obviously. You watch any one of these episodes, I'm incredibly biased. But for him to be biased against marijuana, he shouldn't be biased against anything. He should be studying it. Go look at it. I'm repeating myself. That's what I do when I get on a tangent. I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed. That's annoying. Thanks, everybody, for checking out Cannabis News, helping us spread the truth, helping people see rants like this. It's very important. All this stuff gets out. MarijuanaTimes.org. Go check it out. Click that video tab. Find the episodes. Check us out on Vimeo, Apple Podcasts. All of that. Maybe we'll return one day to YouTube. Who knows? I'm not holding my breath, but, fingers crossed, as they say. And until then, go spread the word through our other platforms, the articles, MarijuanaTimes.org. All of that, and we'll see you tomorrow on Cannabis News.